Making the booms. Well, obviously there's two booms, so a left and a right. This is the port side, if you like, the left hand side. Now I'm using 3mm by 3mm carbon square tube. Centre of that tube is 2mm. Now I've managed to get some 450mm, but usually you get 250mm. Now if you live in China or in the USA, you can get this in metre lengths. We can't get it here. A lot of places will not post the UK in metre lengths, and I don't know why. So I put my thoughts to it and I thought, okay, how do I make this long enough? Now actually I just thought to myself how long these are, and I've forgotten. I've got my tape measure to hand. Here we go. The bottom one is 51.5 centimetres, so that's 510mm, or if you like 20.25 inches. So obviously these are too short. What's the solution? Well, I'll show you on the short piece here. As I said, you have a 2mm hole in the middle there. Get yourself some 2mm rod, slightly chamfer it, and that fits in there. And all you're going to do, cut off an inch, take another piece, slot it in. That's it. That's all you got to do. In fact, I haven't even glued this because that's solid. It's absolutely solid. In fact, it's hard to pull it out. And that will give you the length that you need. So that's what I've done. And I've bought enough to do both sides. Now, the thing is, you now have to make the struts for the booms. And it's say on here 3 times 10mm. What that means is that these are 10mm wide, and what you do, I mean, I'll take the rear part here. This is for the starboard side. I've made myself a pattern, and then it comes out like this, and then I put it on the sander and I sand it to shape. It doesn't take very long to do that. This is 1.5mm ply. You make 2. You make 2 and then you glue them together, and then you finish it all off with a hand sand. Okay, and you finish it to shape and you keep checking it. The most important part of doing this, and this is where you need to take note, you need to use these 2 plans with this, okay? And on both plans it shows the booms. You need this one. This one shows the fuzz at the top left hand corner, and it shows the booms in the bottom. That also shows the rudder and the horizontal stabilizer, okay, and the vertical stabilizer. There's lots of information on here, but it will say here, boom shown at true length, build size over this section, then join over plan for correct angle. Okay, that's important because the other plan will show this. Okay, the other plan is on the shelf there. You will see that the engine is on this plan. Use this plan, not the other one. Can't emphasize that enough. So the other thing that I recommend is, if you get one, use a Dremel with a cutter on the end of it, because I always find that with using carbon, it's easier to cut with the Dremel and the cutter on it. It's really going to save you a lot of time and effort. The other thing is that I'm using 5-minute epoxy on this. I don't recommend cyano because this has a lot of stresses, it will warp and twist, and cyano tends to be a little bit, it can crack, whereas 5-minute epoxy has got a bit more give in it, and if it's 5 minutes, it takes 5 minutes. There you go. So that's how I've done this boom. So just to reiterate, 1.5mm ply, double it up here, double it up here, double it up here, okay, because 1.5 and 1.5 makes 3mm, and this is 3mm rod. Simple as. Okay, now you must make sure that the end here goes up to that middle spar and ends here at the rudder. Same here, and you'll find that this just comes slightly short of that spar on the bottom wing, but you have to chamfer it into a point. Chamfer it into a point. Now the thing is, if you're using round carbon, which you can, that's going to be a little bit more difficult to get chamfer that point in. Okay, just be aware of that because it's round, it rolls. So you might have to build the wing, then chamfer it. And what I've done is I've used some 1.5 ply, and I put some doublers on here to make sure that this adheres to that carbon, and the real thing had something similar, so it's not a big deal. Also, before you glue to the carbon fibre, give a bit of rub with some glass paper or sandpaper, whatever you want to call it, so it gives something to a key to adhere to it. Okay, so that's how you're going to do your booms. It took me quite a long time to get these boom struts to shape, but I wanted to make sure they're actually bob on, and I think it's worth putting that little bit of extra in. So there you are, that's how you make your booms. You can, if you want to, pop a couple of little holes in either side, so later on you can put the wires in, and I may do that some later date, but for now I'm just getting that built. When you come to do the opposite side and you want to put these strengtheners in, just build it as it is, flip it over, then add these afterwards, because you won't be able to lay that flat. And that's all there is to it. You can build the right and the left one just as it is. In fact, you might even be able to use the same holes for the pins. I would also recommend putting a weight on here. Okay, make sure keeping them flat, and once it's all gone off, it should come out okay. And that is how you build the booms. Okay, so I've done the second right hand tip or the starboard tip for either the top or the bottom wing, and again notice there is a curve there, and just as a reminder, we're using 2 3mm bits of spruce there. Put them together like that, shape them, cover them in Vaseline so they don't stick on the bottom there, and they go on the bottom like that, and that's what gets you your washout. So what I'm going to have to do now is put that to one side, don't lose it, and I take those formers and I turn them upside down. Just do that, just do it the opposite way. So onto the tail. Okay, I did this yesterday and I did actually forget to put some Vaseline on, so I'm hoping it's not going to be all stuck together. But anyway, let's see. So prise this out. There you go. Side. this lift up. Ooh. Yeah, well, actually it wasn't the Vaseline I forgot to do, it was to put some cling film underneath to bend it. Yep, that's working. There you go. Leaves us with that, which is what we want. Now, can I get it off the board? Hopefully so. There. That's loose. That's loose. That's loose. Just this front bit. You can hear the glue cracking. So it's only tight there. So this is a good reminder for you to put your cling film on top, isn't it? It's a good reminder for me as well. I wonder, grab a knife. There we go. Come away. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. And there's the excess glue. So next time, remember to use the cling film. So what we'll do now is we will take the drawing, which is behind me. Just 1 second. There we go. We'll take the drawing, and what I'll do is I'll put this on the building board. And I'll start getting the bolts together, put this on the board, clean this up, put this on the board, and I'll make it all as one, and then when I'm ready I'll cut the ends for the elevators, because I just want it to be all flat at the moment, and I think that's probably the best way to approach it. So I'll go and get the building board. The engine. Well, I'm looking at the engine as an optional extra, and there's several reasons why. So this is the motor. Now, if I was to put the engine on in with the motor, for me the motor would have to go into the centre and be spinning freely on its own, and this remains static. The reason is, if you rotate this high RPM, revs per minute, this will be so out of balance, it's going to shake your model apart, and if it doesn't do that, things are going to fly off this. So I highly recommend that you don't have this spinning. And I may not fit this to the finished model. The revs being one reason. The other reason is it's not that light. I've not actually weighed it. If I do have my weighing machine readily at hand, Yeah, here it is. Now, let's see if it'll tell us about what it is. Right, that's just shy of 64 grams. So it's adding some weight there. I would prefer to vacuum form this to make it a fraction of its current weight. Vacuum form it, I'll be a lot happier with that. The other reason I may not mount it is, right now, I'm not sure how I'm going to mount it and whether that is physically possible without doing some major modifications to the airframe. So yeah, there's a few reasons there. They're just a few of the reasons. You don't need to have the dummy motor on. It'll fly just as well and look just as good. And with all the rigging and everything else, you probably won't see it. But anyway, here is the motor. So the motor would go in this way, and what I might have to do is take the cables around like this to go around back into the fuzz so that this can rotate freely. You'd have to go that way around actually. Depends on how I mount it. I mean, I might put the cables through the middle and make a gorge, you know, like a trench in there so I can get the cables in. So, you know, there's more and more reasons not to put the engine in. However, should you want to put the engine in, let me just go and grab the drawing. I'm going to show you how I made this one. Should you want to copy it, that is. It's not quite as straightforward as it would seem. Whoops. Now, there we are. Place it over the top. So there's 9 cylinders. So if you want to make the engine, this is how I did it. I got 2 pieces of 10mm thick balsa. I have hole cutters, so I cut a hole cutter out, and the measurement for the hole cutter is 30 centimeters. So you do 2 30 centimeters, then you glue them together. Okay. The size of the motor is 28mm. I happen to have a 28mm hole cutter, so I cut the middle out. These are dowels. They're 14mm dowel, and then what I did was I went down to the local hardware store. I bought a short length of, actually it was 1 meter of 1.5 twin and earth. It's a flat cable, call it T&E in the trade. And then I bought a 6mm cable, 1 meter twin and earth, and basically stripped them down. So the cylinders are just copper wire wrapped around the dowel, and I made a length about this long. What's that, about 10 inches? I just cut them down, put them on the dowel. Then I got a 14mm spade cutter, and I just reamed out from the centre section there and put the dowel in. These are 20mm long, so you've got to make 9 20mm long 14mm dowels. So I wrapped the dowels around them, glued them on, put the dowels into the 14mm holes. Okay. Then with the centre section here, I took the 30mm cutter, which is round. I laminated 2 pieces of 4mm laminate, 2 pieces there, so I had a perfect circle, and I just popped that on the front. Okay. Then with the 6mm copper wire, because its copper's quite bendable, quite soft, I just bent them to shape 9 times. Okay, popped a hole in each end coming out the cylinder, and then with the push rods, that's just 1mm gauge piano wire. I pop some holes in, and then I sprayed the whole thing black. Well, I took all these out and then I sprayed the whole thing black, and then I did the aluminium front, because if you look at the DH2 engine, it's got an aluminium front, and then I popped these all back in without having to paint them or anything, and it comes out like that. Yeah, so that is your motor, and that goes exactly to the plan. Let's have a look. So each cylinder is 20mm long, each cylinder is 14mm diameter. The outer diameter there is 30mm, so that's like a 60mm. I think actually it's a 68 cutter there. Inner circle 28mm, and the rest is as I just told you. So that's how you do your motor. It takes quite a long time to do. I am not the sort that wants to put a whole lot of detail into this, because it's a near scale, it's not an absolute scale, and I'm not putting it into competitions or anything, so it doesn't have to be, you know, bob on. But if you want to do one that's bob on, it's going to take you a little while to do it, and I don't think, you know, personally for me, my personal preference is just do enough, because it's there for show. It has no function, at all, it's just there for show. What with the rest of the model, you know, that'll look quite adequate, because these are actually copper and these are actually steel, you know, and the rest of the engine is black and basically aluminium anyway. So there you go. Okay.